NBS Frontline.
Uganda Bureau
The government statistics body, UBOS, has come under scrutiny over figures from the National Population and Housing Survey 2024, released with much pomp.
There is a longevity, and it doesn't happen by accident.
Since its release, the report uploaded on UBOS' official website has sparked controversy, particularly regarding the tribal data, which many argue defies both logic and common sense.
The population should have grown. But if we say the population has declined so much with the statistics we are creating, then we doubt the whole census exercise.
This UBOS result is very shocking. We can analyze and say one is political.
The UBOS boss has responded to these doubts in an unapologetic tone.
And I want to tell you, journalists, that don't expect another census in Uganda until 2034.
Yes, Uganda's best statistician spent billions of taxpayers' money, asked Ugandans 180 questions, only to leave them guessing the results.
That's all. And that's a human error.
Legislators are now calling for an inquiry to uncover what could have gone wrong. Is this lack of thoroughness typical of Ugandan culture? Could these disordered figures reflect deeper issues within UBOS, where some board members have already resigned? Is it too late to fix the mess? This is The Frontline. NBS Frontline.
A very good evening and welcome to this edition of The Frontline. My name is Charles Mwangu-Shampage. The census 2024, the results. What exactly went wrong? Is there anything fundamentally wrong with the numbers? What about this obsession with tribes? Most of the quarrels have been coming from different communities saying you undercounted us, you gave us the wrong numbers. What exactly is going on? To discuss that on The Frontline tonight, let me start from the extreme end. I have from Butambala, Member of Parliament, Muhammad Mwanga Chivombe, MK.
Is it good? That's a good. What time how do you greet?
In English,
which school? At this time.
Which school did you go to?
Don't bother. I never went to a nursery school.
There were no nursery schools in Butambala.
So I'm glad to be here once again to all viewers. I wish you a very good show.
From Kapele Byong, from Mulanda, Ofono Opondo, he's Executive Director at the Uganda Media Center and a frontliner. Very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles. And from Chagwa as well. You don't want the people here to disown me.
As a Munachagwe.
Munachagwe. Thank you to be here.
We missed you last Thursday.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm back.
You're back.
Yeah.
Very nice to have you.
Thank you.
From the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, the people responsible for the numbers that are causing a lot of headache and a lot of debate, Didakas Okoth, Principal Public Relations Officer. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you, Charles, and nice to be among the frontliners.
And from Kira Municipality, from PFF, Shadow Minister for Finance, Honorable Ibrahim Semujunganda. Very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening to viewers.
Let me start with you, Didakas. You did the census numbers. From your own information, you say what you released initially. You have cycles of release of these census numbers. You're at stage 2. There's another stage expected. You've seen all the controversy that's been going on about the numbers you released. Should we trust them? And why should we?
Thank you, Charles. Definitely, like you said, that is based on our census roadmap, that we shall release the preliminary, provisional, and final. The fact that the numbers should be believed is based and anchored on the fact that the Bureau as an institution is responsible for providing quality statistics to inform planning. And because of that, undertaking an exercise of census magnitude necessitates a lot of professionalism, infrastructural equipment in place, skills, and knowledge of the job. On that regard, allow me to briefly tell you that the census undertaking underwent thorough processes, and this stems from the right of the time when we started with the consultative meetings to identify stakeholder needs. And of course, that gave us an opportunity to generate the kind of questions that we would ask our publics, the stakeholders, the general public, so that we are able to generate information that can serve all interested stakeholders in the country. And of course, this involved adequate planning, that we ensured that after, through the consultations, we had to test these questions. We also had to pre-test it to see how the audience are responding, but also to test the speed at which, because remember, this was a national exercise and we're supposed to cover every household. You saw the population saying that the questions were so many, especially the household questions. So we needed to know how long would it take, for example, an enumerator to interview a household of 5 people, say, 7 people, 1 person. So we did that pre-testing, and of course, that gave us an opportunity to know how many enumerators would need to carry out the exercise across the whole country.
Let me cut you short there. I hear what you're saying, you're taking us through the process, but you've already released your numbers. So the processes part, we assume that that could have gone well, but some of the viewers out there who will tell you, I was not counted. You've had those complaints who still say, you never reached them. And now you have put out numbers and people are saying they're disputing the numbers. How are you responding to this? How do you explain this?
Charles, it may not actually be the question of disputing numbers, but of course, over time, we have explained to the public that one of the preparatory exercises that we did was to do what we call household mapping, or that enabled us to identify the number of households that we needed to cover during the census. We generated over 10 million households to cover. But also, oftentimes we have given the reason why there was that 1% of the population that was not covered. And we said that, for example, Kampala, it is easy to access, easy to reach, but accessing households is a bit challenging. And this is because of the busy schedule that the population of Greater Kampala are involved in.
You provided a public holiday, government provided you a public holiday to keep everybody home, as many people as possible.
Definitely, and I can assure you that on the first day of enumeration, we did a good job, but also the census enumeration was supposed to take 10 days. But if you remember during that time, that even when we were closing up the 10 days, we realized that there were still some households that needed to be covered. And so we requested for an extension. The cabinet gave us more 5 days, and we made good use of those days to ensure, and also in an effort actually to maximize complete coverage, we called upon the population, especially the busy population, to get in touch with their LS1 chairpersons so that they can schedule an appointment with the enumerators who were scattered all over to ensure that they are not left behind during the counting.
So is it your position that every Ugandan was actually counted, who needed to be counted?
We said in our report that we counted up to 99%.
99%.
So there was that 1% that we did not cover. And the reason coming from the fact that even we have a number of single households in Kampala. Someone lives in the morning, goes to work, maybe works in a factory, works in a bank, whatever. By the time the enumerators are deployed in the field, maybe at 7:30, he has already left his house. Therefore, this person again returns at 8 p.m. when the enumerators are out of the field. So that's why we kept calling upon the people. They say, here are our numbers, please. If you can't reach out to your L1 chairperson,
reach out to us directly.
Please reach out to us directly so that we can schedule an appointment with you. We could even enumerate you on phone if that's the case to be. That, call us directly. In fact, we put out over 12 telephone contacts for easy, communication between us and the public.
You are the statisticians. When you say there is that 1%, that 1% represents about how many individuals in actual numbers?
In actual numbers, of course, I may not have that calculation now, but I can tell you that we generated data and we realized that our population is 45.9.
45.9?
Yes, 0.9%. The mathematicians can quickly
Honorable
give us
Mwanga Chivumbi, you're the numbers person. 1% of 45.9 million is what?
Is it 4? Because we're talking about 1%. It's about 4. It's not 4 million. 4 million will be 10.
4 million will be 10. So that's about 1.5 million?
No. It's 4 because we're talking about 1%. So it is like 400,000 people.
400,000 people. I want to come to you, Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi. Census is a critical national exercise. It guides the planning. When the numbers produced from a national census are a bit disputed, there is a risk. Studies have indicated that the population might not trust other data from government. How would you, from where you sit, make sense of the census results and especially keep faith that people who are consuming this information are going to keep the faith and know that the Bureau of Statistics has been producing excellent results, but these small controversies are issues that, like they have been explaining, I've seen the executive director explain. Does it worry you that this might reduce trust in numbers?
First of all, why do countries go for census? He knows that at all times, by using extrapolation, you can, at any time, a country project its population. The 46 millions, even before they went for enumeration, if you had extrapolated our population from the last census, it was not far off the number. But then why do you go for a census? Because you can at all times, using scenario building and modeling, come up with approximately the number of people you have in the country. But a population census is to be thorough, to be exact, stop guesswork, and do real counting. Therefore, for him to even come and say there is a 1%, you get that there is a 1%, which we now use approximation that was not counted, defeats the motivation, the motive of a census. And the census is the basic data for planning, for decision making, for whatever government wants to do. Therefore, it's a guiding tool. So critical in planning, but even for infrastructure. For everything you want to do, you want to base on a known set of data. Because the population data does not only establish the number of people, it also gives you other variable data, their income, their poverty levels, their everything, how they live, fertility rate, all those you establish. And then you are able to project. That's why it's done after 10 years. And then you are able to project and say, this is how we should plan for this population. Now, to dispute it or have any dent of imagination that this data is not right, in other countries, that entity, that institution that has carried out a population will go every length to remove that doubt. But when you listen to the interview of your boss, it was the most absurd you'll ever listen to. Actually, if he was in another country, he could have resigned yesterday. But in Uganda here, anything can fly. But take it as anything, you can go with anything, but take it as it is. Is this the first data that UBOS has come up with and the country has had reasons to dispute? Not at all. Now, how about the thinking of the population? Is that this data, which is even more critical because it's near an election, there is a motivation by political actors to influence the outlook of numbers to give an impression in a manipulated election, a predictable results of election. Those are all worries. But also you must understand.
So you think, you're suggesting that political spin is potentially affecting the reception of these numbers?
Of course, from all corners. That's why the institution that is mandated to assure the country that these figures are right, it's unfortunate, it's the one that is under attack. And that leaves us with a huge challenge. And look at the cost. I was telling him the figures. You were saying 332 billion. But from my figures, it was 336 billion spent. And I asked him to do a unit cost. So how much money did you use to count every Ugandan? It's approximately 6,000 per head. Not per home, per head. When you look at the 336 billion divided by 46 million, you'll get about 7,000 per head.
Would you call that out of range?
Definitely, it's a huge amount of money. To count each 1, 2, 3, and you are saying you are spending 7,000. I was in a build-up, by the way. I was a shadow minister. When UBOS did not get money, I was one of the few people who went on the floor of parliament and made a case that the country needed a population census. And we were asking them, why don't you use the biometric equipment which NIRA had, which the Electoral Commission, because we had acquired all that equipment, they made a case that they needed their own iPad. And that this iPad instantly will transit data, tally it, and in no instant give you exactly what has happened each day. That was the argument. And they disregarded their variable capacity and went for a fresh procurement of a software and all the accessories to do that. Now, come the enumeration day, by about 2 or on the census day, most of the equipments were not functional.
Some of the equipment, wouldn't mostly.
It were not some. Quite a lot was not functional. And they were putting advert, please, please. And that was the day in which they said, please stay home. They had carried out the population and segmented it and said, for this number of people, you need this number of enumerators to be able to round it within a record time, aided by technology. Now, even when Ugandans did a manual count so many years ago, they nearly got it right. How do you give you all that capacity and then you come up with wrong figures?
Did they come up with, the explanation I've seen is that they say the figures are not wrong. Some of the figures were misplaced and put on different, on wrong individuals. I mean on wrong categories.
The tribes.
Yes, on wrong tribe. Mpuga Jonathan Kagoro, thank you very much. He's done the numbers for us on the 1%, and yeah, he's shared for me. He shared with me the screenshot of his calculator. It comes up to 459,000. Is 1%.
Half a million.
Yeah, almost 500,000. Thank you, Jonathan.
30 million?
No.
500,000.
500,000. 459,000.
Yeah, that were not counted.
Yeah.
Now, the essence of the population is that should not happen. You are supposed to go physical to every home. So even with that imagination, but then look at the data they've come up with. You are saying wrong coding, where you put different or tribes and whatever on wrong figures. Our view is, where is your quality assurance department? Because you are supposed to have a quality assurance department in your bureau, that before you give out these data that are going to be consumed by everybody, you have to cross-check and cross-check and cross-check and be sure. These figures you gave were a second set of figures, because you had released the primary figures. And now they were preliminary figures. Then you are giving another set, second provisional results. Now, you have time to cross-check. If the first one were the one to be disputed, it could be excusable. But by this time, you have looked at the quality and everything. So they have no excuse for whatsoever to have failed to give this country the right figures to work with. Because if we don't have those figures right, and if they are not even believable, for me, even if they were wrong, and the population would believe them, it is better than being right and you are not believable.
Let me come to you. The effect of this, because I have actually two questions. One is, in 2024, why this obsession with tribes and numbers of tribes? Why is that important? Number two, what, in your view, is the risk that other important good numbers that UBOS has provided get lost in this fight over this tribe is bigger than the other, these numbers were undercounted?
Well, first of all, I don't think that there is a lot of controversy in the methodology and the actual outcome of the census. I don't think so. Because since the results were released, it's almost 3 months now. It was, the first one was June.
Yeah, June, yes.
We are now ending, we are mid-October. It's about 3 months or even 4. You had asked whether we should believe. I think we should believe the results of the census. These slight discrepancies notwithstanding. Why? For now, there is no other competent authority to give us the data except UBOS, the government of Uganda. 2, the findings of UBOS is consistent with the regular household surveys done by the Minister of Finance, done by Minister of Health in the health aspect, done by Minister of Agriculture, like Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi had intimated. Before we went for the census, all of us had known that from the estimates of government, which the government has been using for the annual budget, the background to the budget, were hovering around 44.6 million, 45 million. That's the figure of the government. The final outcome is saying 46 point something. Call it 1 million. So I think
45.9.
yes. So I think the census outcome findings is accurate, and therefore we should believe because it's backed by other data of the various departments of the government of Uganda, but also other agencies, including international agencies of the United Nations. Two, let me disabuse. Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi, thank you very much for making a case on the floor for you boss to get more resources at the budgeting time. But just remember that even if you did not, population census is something that is required by the UN standards. So it is not just you, even if you are not in that house. Still, the government of Uganda has intelligent people who would have known that we need to give adequate resources for this work. Three, is this the only enumeration, the only registration, the only survey that have been in dispute? There's nothing we don't dispute in Uganda. I've said on this show before that we disputed even the NERA registration of the national identity card. People said we don't need. SIM cards, telephone, we said we don't need. I'm even surprised that Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi, I think they are part of the groups that went to court to challenge why the Electoral Commission was trying to use available data which hadn't been collected by the Electoral Commission for purposes of voter registration. So I think UBOS and the general government was alive to the likely dispute if it had taken wholesale the data, equipment, logistics, which were already acquired, were resting with the Electoral Commission, with the NERA. I think we were alive to that, and therefore it was thought prudent that let us give UBOS its own brand new logistical infrastructure so that they have no excuse. Nobody would run to court. Why is UBOS borrowing from the Electoral Commission? Because remember, we have been disputing even the numbers
on the voters register.
On the voters register. And so I think that was a mitigation aspect in my view. I wasn't in Parliament with you, but I think that was the rationale. Now let us go to the real meat. Where is the so-called dispute? The so-called dispute is on the figures of the census of 2014 of a few ethnic groups, call them tribes, which when they were releasing, they ascribed to, I think there were about 6.
There were 4.
Four tribes. If you consider that Uganda has more than 56 tribes in this census, I think that is a small number. So, I don't think that has material effect to infect the overall outcome. For example, it does not affect the total number of Ugandans or people who are living in Uganda, the 45.9. Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi makes a case that we should have, these people should have counted everyone. I think that's why in statistics, and I think this was a statistical survey. Okay, enumeration. We talk about margin of error. Usually, we talk about the margin of error, 3 plus, 3 minus. And I think that aspect has also been explained, that even if you were not physically enumerated from the outcome, that 1% has no serious material defect it causes on the overall results. Finally, in my view, The reason they staggered and they say preliminary, they come and say provisional, and then final. The reading is that there's likelihood that there are things you would not have fully understood or found out, analyzed when you are doing the provisional, the preliminary. And therefore, in the policy, they give you preliminary, they give you provisional, and then final, so that by the time you do the final, you have evened out the possible mistakes, which good enough has been discovered before the final. And therefore, we have the opportunity to correct. The other one is that in the process, there are validation stages. This preliminary, even before preliminary, there must have been some aspects of validation. Yes, it is unfortunate the validation processes did not discover prior to the preliminary, but has now discovered at the provisional, and therefore they have the opportunity to make good at the final. It would be absurd if we expected that in a human endeavor you will have 100% at the first go. Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi, you are in Parliament. We are just getting out of a recent controversy on a small matter. You put a budget, for example, of the service award. My brother, Honorable Semujo here, has been on this show and said the service award money was budgeted, was presented before the budget committee, was presented in the budget at the committee of supply of the House. Quite a huge chunk of members of Parliament have been contesting, some even went to court to say it was not in the budget. Now, if a matter like that in Parliament, you have few, and you can even contest whether that money was put in the budget, why would you expect that a huge exercise like national population, household and population, house and population census?
You want to compare?
No.
You want to compare?
Yes, I am comparing.
People who are hired with.
Yes, I am. Yes,
growers.
Yes. Even Parliament are hired. They are paid full time. They are given researchers.
Where are the tomato growers?
They are in Parliament.
In Parliament?
Yes.
The August House is...
No. Present fake academic documents.
I have no evidence. I don't have no evidence that there are people with the fake who have presented the fake academic papers and they are still in Parliament. I think court threw them out. Now, for me, I'm simply saying that the reason for validation, for having preliminary, for having provisional, for having final eventually, is that it is expected that along the way there would be mistakes that would be found. Maybe what we can question was this mistake of ascribing the wrong figures for 2014 deliberate, or it was negligence, or it was incompetence. So far, nobody has adduced evidence that it was deliberate, and I think they themselves have said it is human error.
Human error.
Now, with the politicians, especially the elected politicians, and that's expected. It is normal for a group which has been assigned the wrong figures, especially of 2014, to question why would you assign us the wrong figures. I think they have the duty, and the government has the duty to explain persuasively.
But like you said, this only affected a very small proportion.
Yes.
Out of more than 50?
Even if it affected that small you boss and the government as a whole has a duty, has an obligation to explain to them that ascribing to them the figures of 2014, which was not theirs, and which, by the way, on the website of WUBOS wasn't changed, wasn't altered, they need to be explained too. I would be worried if they were given the wrong numbers for 2024.
Okay.
There, I would be more worried if they were given wrong figures for
Honorable
2024.
Semuju, I beg your indulgence. I don't need to cut you shortly after you begin talking. So let's take a break now and pick it up with you after a very short break. We'll be right back.
Honorable Semuju.
NBS Frontline.
You're still watching the Frontline on NBS TV, and we are discussing the controversy surrounding the census numbers. Now, this is the statement from the Uganda Bureau of Statistics Executive Director. He says, on Thursday, 3rd October 2024, the provisional report was disseminated. The report provides more detailed statistical data and information on population distribution and several socio-economic indicators. It is important to note that the figures for Census 2014, as published in March 2016, are correct. In addition, the data integrity for the Census 2024 is robust and of high quality. However, the provisional report published on 3rd October 2024 misreported the tribes of Acholi, Bagisu, Bachiga, and Lango for Census 2014 figures, which occurred during comparison of the tribal figures for 2014 and 2024. This has been corrected in accordance with the United Nations Fundamental Principles of Official Statistics as provided in Table 1 below. Why, Honorable Semuju Nganda, is there this obsession among Ugandans about their tribes? That there's a lot of ruckus over our numbers, you gave us wrong numbers. No, we can't have lost all this. I have seen a petition that has been, I hope, Didicus, you have received it, or you can confirm receiving it at the Uganda Bureau of Statistics from Banyarwanda. They say, no, not long ago, we are competitive in terms of our numbers. We're about population number 5 in population numbers. Now we are among others. I have seen James Salemi here. Yes, James Salemi is watching us and says, how,
I think it's a Lugwara.
yes, he says, how can the tribe of a former president of Uganda, Kakwa, that produced a president for this country, also be among others? Where did all Kakwas go? What explains this obsession, Honorable Semuju?
I don't know, but you see, what is in the report for the ordinary person is his tribe and religion. Even when people are demanding for districts, constituencies, I think that's one of the reasons they are going to advance. So for the ordinary person, you need to get figures on ethnicity and religion right. I sympathize with the Ubos. I am one of the consumers of their statistics. And I think they've done fairly well. The trouble is that the results for 2024, we haven't even discussed them. We are just discussing the credibility of the results. Because there are a number of issues. Food security, fertility rate, poverty levels, people in agriculture. There hasn't been a discussion on all those statistics. The discussion is on what the head of that institution called errors. Unfortunately for them, they are serving at a time under a government whose credibility is on wire, because they keep falsifying everything, from election results to many other things. They are paying partly for the credibility or lack of it by the government, in the broader sense of a government.
There is a credibility deficit, huh?
The
Yes.
age of the president.
The president's age is not in doubt because he says he doesn't know when he was born.
But
In fact,
he's allowed to.
he said
Celebrate the birthday.
he said he was assigned the birthday by his children. Yeah.
Can we discuss the census data?
That is also part of the...
No, that's not part of, that's not part of this data.
They ask you, when do you estimate, when do you think you are, how old do you think you are?
No,
you give that and you go by that.
There was a demand that people should go and count...
the dental form, the dental...
Yes.
That's an option.
And the court didn't. But the phone don't divert me. You see, the falsification of results and data, but also the president consistently, I am told what he did is provided for under by the Economist. When the GDP was at 27 billion US dollar, it jumped to 35. Now I think it is 40 something. He said we need to debase. I am very angry with my people in the Ministry of Finance. So the GDP is not what they are presenting, and shortly it went up.
No, debasing is economics language.
Yeah,
but
yes. It shouldn't be instigated by the president. It should be by the technical people in the ministry. If it is him agitating for it, it is as if he's asking them to cook those figures because he wants a different GDP. So I sympathize with you. I don't know how much talking you are going to do to make people believe. Because as I said, the question you asked is a very legitimate question, that why are people obsessed? And I want to look at it differently. What has been questioned so far are figures on ethnicity. The other day we were in Parliament. Honorable Alex Sindez, one of the longest serving MPs representing people with disability, he said by the last population census, there were 6 million. He says there are now 3. So he asked the government to account for the 3 million people with disability. Have they been all killed?
I saw someone else argue yesterday and said, if you look at people who get disabled because of accidents and other things happening, surely the number can't be reducing. But Didicus will explain that.
Yeah, so because we haven't subjected the whole of this report to a quality analysis, we are still on the figures that figures that are close to everybody. Tribes, now people with disability are also complaining. So if you are going to have one group, because you see, you are now inviting more people to look at what is closer to them. And everybody who looks at the statistic that is close to him is complaining. So you're going to make it very difficult for those of us who are using these figures to believe in these figures. In fact, if it was not very difficult to repeat an exercise like this, for me, I would even demand that we repeat the exercise. Because you are now validating the figures by talking, not by redoing the exercise. I'm not saying it should be redone, but I'm looking at the problem that we'll live with for the next 10 years. That you have produced a report, sections of society, because you see, if it was UBOS coming up to say, you guys, wait a minute, sorry, here I have made a mistake, I have corrected it. But you came to correct this error when you had been prompted by the debate in the social media and in the main media. That presents you as people who are covering up. It's not something that you discovered. I remember in must have been 206, 201, when Alhaji Aziz Kasuja, the late, was releasing results from election. He presented Machi India East, the total number of votes in the constituency were more than voters. And they were releasing results constituency by constituency. After projecting, they discovered they had made a mistake. They tried to record it, but they had already captured it. And it became a matter of court in the BSG cases. So, and it's not that a bigger percentage of the report must have problems. Any percentage of the report that will have a problem is going to affect even other sections of the report that have no issues.
Let me go back to my question about the obsession with tribes.
Yes.
Many people argue today and say, tribe is a relic of colonialism. It was a tool of colonialism.
How?
A tribe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then they find us here in our tribes, the pre-colonial states.
They
were built around ethnicity.
They found nation states.
The Banyankole were living around, the Baganda were living here, the Banyoro. So there is not a creation of anyone. That's why almost when you are filling forms, almost all government forms, they are going to be asking you the tribe, and then they are going to be complaining that you're a tribalist. You go to police. The other day when I was arrested, the first thing they're asking is your tribe.
Yes.
As if the tribe has anything to do with what I am doing.
Absolutely. And that's the argument. That's the base of my question. The argument has been that tribe suggests primitivity, backwardness. That's how it is.
I don't believe.
Are there tribes in Europe?
Yes,
do they identify by tribe?
Yes, I mean, you see, just start with the Americans.
What tribes are in America?
They are not tribes like in the formal sense of Uganda, but the way they classify their society.
Yes.
These are black, these are Irish, these are...
For purposes of classification.
Yes.
Yes, for purposes of classification.
Yes.
Is tribe important?
But the whole issue of American campaign now is how do I convince Latino, how do I convince black? Do you think a country like America should be clustered like that? That you go on a whole campaign that I am convincing blacks and Latino. But that's what it is. I don't find any problem with the tribe. I actually don't find it. But leaders pretend about it. In fact, I think that's how Museveni made the law on sectarian. I was charged under that law.
I'm afraid
for me,
I need to come in. We have some breaking news. We follow politics across our neighbors on the eastern side.
Breaking news.
We are receiving information from across the border in Kenya that Rigathi Gachagua, Kenya's deputy president, has been impeached by the Senate. This is the second impeachment he's suffering because the lower house had already impeached him. His case had been dismissed from court, and now the Senate has finally impeached him. So what next for Rigathi Gachagua? Less than 2 years in the office as deputy president, having run as a running mate with President William Ruto. A mega fallout in that country, a mega fallout in this new government of William Ruto. How events will play out in Kenya is what everybody will be watching. People have been speculating that he's already put himself on the ticket for 2027 when they hold the elections. Yes?
He has announced so.
He has announced, yes, that he'll be running 2027, and the realignment of political formations. Or you watch this more closely, the people of the mountain, where he comes from.
His ethnic group.
His ethnic group.
Yeah. So it's not only us who are obsessed with ethnicity.
He's been profusely apologizing to...
He has become popular.
Yes, he's been profusely apologizing to President Uhuru Kenyatta, whom he really hounded to get Ruto elected. Now he has been impeached.
Well, you know, the people have been telling us that one way to stabilize our politics in Uganda, we should have presidents with the running mates. Now, the two examples have shown us that even when you have a running mate elected with you, you can have trouble. In America, Trump discarded Mike Pence.
Mike Pence?
No. Discarded. This was, I think this is the first time that a former president is discarding his vice president. Oh, they are disagreeing on election matters.
Mike Pence has endorsed Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Yes.
And now in the neighbor, among the neighbor, they have fallen out. So I think every country has its peculiarity that need to be respected.
No, you see, the Kenyan politics, it is just that these guys are disagreeing not during elections, but almost in Kenya it is normal to keep moving from one political affiliation to another.
But you haven't
the only problem is that now the disagreement is happening in a running government. But otherwise, Ruto himself was the one who was stopping the announcement of Mwai Kibaki. This Ruto here, he was with Raila Odinga. There are people who think that Raila Odinga is an opportunist by going to work with. They have been working together before. So in Kenya, almost everybody has worked with everybody. And switching from one group to another is the normal.
Though you haven't seen a fallout as dramatic as the one between Ruto and Gachagua. Because, yes, Ruto complained a lot about his relationship with Uhuru. But Uhuru let him run a full first 5-year term without major issues. They come into the second 5-year term. They actually run for some time and then until he signs that
I think
BBI.
Kenyatta is a more civil person. That's why even when he had troubles with his deputy, they continued till the end of term. But he also reached out to Raila Odinga. I think he wanted a less troubled Kenya. But Ruto, I was going to use a very big word. Ruto is a schemer.
He's a hustler.
No, he's a schemer. So he will throw you away immediately and then jump into something that will deliver him somewhere. That's why he ran his campaign, even after swearing in, telling Raila Odinga and his group, there is no handshake, you go and play your role as opposition. After saying it, you've seen him with Raila Odinga coming to Museveni here, going everywhere.
Raila Odinga
so you are dealing with a schemer.
Seems to be a key kingmaker because I think he will be critical in the decision who becomes.
The impeachment is very...
It's political.
It rules out regarding Gachagua for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
If he had resigned, that would have been a different matter. But when you are impeached, then you cannot contest for
He's going to court.
No, he has lost in court. He went to court.
No, he will appeal. I think they are waiting for this now to begin another phase of...
Let's continue discussing the census in Kampala. Let's come back to matters domestic.
He wanted the court to stop the impeachment, but I have been reading that the plan was that if the impeachment happens, then you will go to court over impeachment because you had failed in the initial stage of stopping it. Now you go and challenge the impeachment itself.
Rigathi Gachagua has been impeached by the Senate in Kenya. He's lost 3 rounds so far. 3 rounds. The Senate, at the lower house, and in court. We wait to see what happens next. Though he has indicated...
another Chikuyu.
Professor. We'll wait and see how that plays out. Coming back to our census numbers that we're discussing, these are corrected figures. The errors had been corrected that I'm going to read. Bachiga stand at 2,300,000. In 2014, there were 2,390,975 Bachiga. That number by in 2024 has grown to 2,947,837. Langi, or Lango, as you put it, 2,131,443 in 2014. In 2024, 2,703,277. Bagisu, 1,647,382. That's a 2014 number, 2014 census. 2024, 2,096,149. Acholi, 1,470,884 in 2014, 1,941,913 in 2024. Another interesting or emotive of data is about the distribution by religion. 2014 and 2024. The Roman Catholic Church retains the top position in Uganda. 2014, 13,407,764 Ugandans identified as belonging to the Catholic Church, representing 38.7%. That number grew by almost 3 million in 2024, 16,612,537 but in percentage terms, dropped by 2 percentage points, 36.2%. Anglican or Church of Uganda, 10,941,268, representing 31.6%. In 2014, that number also grew almost by 3 million. In 2024, to 13,311,801, but dropped in percentage terms to 29.0%. Pentecostal or evangelical born agains are Uganda's, this is an interesting number. Let me read the figures. 3,790,564 in 2014, representing 10.9%. In 2024, Pentecostals or evangelicals, or you can call them born again, stand at 6,543,196, and in percentage terms have experienced the biggest growth, the biggest growth, I think, to 14.3%, which I may account for the drop in the other first two categories. Muslims, 2014 numbers, 4,663,204, representing 13.5% of the population then. In 2024, they stand at 6,051,317, representing a 13.2%. So the drop is a 0.3% in percentage terms.
But Muslims are dropping.
No.
These guys are overrepresented on the
in
show.
absolute numbers, they have grown. As a percentage share, there's a slight drop. Actually, the slightest drop if you compare it with the other numbers. Yes.
So on this show, the Muslims are overrepresented.
Okay, let me read out three more categories. Seventh-day Adventist. In 2014, 590,257, representing 1.7% of the population. In 2024, this number has grown, almost doubled actually, to 911,153, representing 2% of the population. Orthodox, 48,421, 0.1. That number grew by 20,000 to 65,150, and in percentage terms remaining at 0.1. So when you have when you have Theodore Sechkubo here, that number is would that
more.
be overrepresentation?
Yes. They shouldn't have be represented in the show.
Traditional, you just said traditional. Traditional African religion, what is this?
Yeah.
Yes. Traditional African religion, 33,805, 0.1%. This number has actually grown. Traditionalists have grown to 56,332, still maintaining a percentage of 0.1. There are other categories that 548,348 in 2016, grown to 704. I don't know who is classified in other religions. So.
We have the Baha'i, the Buddhists, the Wabusawazi.
Yes.
They're all there.
Fall in this category.
Yes.
So you see, Charles,
yes.
So if you can allow me to conclude, I think even if no evidence had been presented, there will still be issues with your report because of the credibility of Ofonopono's government. His boss, the chairman of his party, every election he modifies his name. What would stop a person like that from modifying population and census figures? That every election you change a name. And that's the president of the country. You think these things look small, but they are not. They actually tell you the conduct of your leader. So someone who falsifies the results or who himself casts doubt on the results of a major election. Because if the president is complaining about an election, why shouldn't someone else complain about that particular election? Because but his last statement, people may have taken it lightly, but he was confirming that actually these elections have issues. So they are not credible results that you can present. So that is the first problem that you have as UBOS, that even if your report has no problem, because of the environment in Uganda where almost everything is falsified, everything is modified, you'll have a problem. Matters are made worse that actual evidence is presented. I have told you, I have told the head of UBOS, in my own constituency, the first 3-4 days, all your machines were breaking and they were being taken to Bulindo. That's where you had a center. After a lot of noise, then you brought buses of enumerators. But even after you brought in buses, I am not sure that in my area only 1% was not covered. And I don't know how you guys came at 1%.
Okay.
Because if you did not count people, how did you know that they are 1%? Because this was actually, this is an estimate. So who was estimating? We did not send you to the field to go and estimate. That you have done through surveys. We now send you to physically count people and tell us the total population of Uganda. And then as an institution, one of those that are using your figures, we begin planning. If you look at local government, the Local Government Act, to be represented by a councillor at a sub-county, at a municipality, at a district, it depends on the population. How many people are in that area? I think now numbers have grown. In Kampala, to be represented by a councillor, you have to be 100,000 people. So all these things are going to cause problems because of the errors. And I don't know what you do, you guys.
The actual errors, how significant are those errors? You talked about a credibility deficit, which doesn't belong to UBOS but belongs to government generally. Maybe he'll explain that. Someone was trying to help us give us the different tribes. I think these are in America somewhere, I don't know. Anglo-Queen, Iroquois, Huron, Wampanoag, Mohican, Mohegan, Ojibwa, Ho-Chunk, Winnebago, Souk, Fox, Illinois. The traditional languages of the Northeast are largely of the Iroquoian and Anglo-Queen language families. You need to explain these things. I don't understand what they mean. But Wakabi Abiam Stephen says, says, now that the election season is approaching, the discrepancy in the UBOS statistics may give us a situation similar to what was in Liberia in 1927, where despite there being fewer than 15,000 registered voters according to the official results, Charles King of the True Whig Party received around 230,000 votes, Faulkner's 9,000, theoretically resulting in a voter turnout in excess of 1,590%. There's someone else here who says, Atkunda Agi, watching from Bukota, says, Ofono Pondo should stop confusing Ugandans. We ain't kids. I live in Mkoto in an estate of 16 houses, but none of them was counted. That 2024 census was a total scam. That's what she calls it. You respond to that. Chensi Bruhan is in Munyangabo. He says, I think in Uganda the biggest achievement by different authorities is the ability and capacity to spend as much as possible. The money used by UBOS was much greater vis-a-vis the population. Census could have been done in a single or 2 days, and collected would have been collected if UBOS were to use our local government at LC1 level. LCs would have provided actual and real data. I have seen someone else complain about Kato Nyansio in Kavende, who is complaining also about the involvement of LC1. You'll explain that, and you said you're working with them. There are too many messages. I'll not be able to take too many of them. Let me take this from Francis Muzuchi, who's MP for Uhueju County, and he says, I am surprised that some Ugandans are surprised. Why are Ugandans surprised? We have ghost cooked figures in police, in schools, in the army, health centers, and on the voter register. Uganda is a country of many ghosts. We have many cooked statistics for the purposes of donors. We have declared ourselves a middle income even before we can get there. In Uganda, everything is possible. Honorable Muzuchi, the problem is that people are saying, how could we have disappeared and shrunk so quickly? I don't think anybody would have been complaining if they had been inflated with some ghosts. Nobody would be complaining. Let me come back to you. You've listened to the various people contributing here. I want to put it back to you. One, how do you lose the other data? How do you save the other critical data that you collected that is accurate, that hasn't been disputed, when you get boxed in to debate numbers of tribes?
Definitely. First of all, we must give appreciation to the authenticity and credibility of the data that we collected. And of course, this was enhanced by the opportunity to use the digital technology to collect data this time round. We had tablets which were deployed in the field, and the information was able to come through to our servers to support, of course, the rate of data analysis. Now, that, of course, guarantees, first of all, that work was done. And in fact, our servers are open. If anybody wanted to dispute that, he's free to come to the Bureau, and he can see it, how this information was trickling in. In fact, we had a dashboard to support us to ensure that we covered the entire households that were mapped across the country. You would see that here you have coffee brown, here you have green, to indicate to you clearly that this household has been what?
Enumerated.
Has been enumerated. Secondly, we worked very closely with the local government. In fact, the LC1 chairpersons were our local guides to the enumerators, because we believed that LC1 chairpersons had full knowledge of the people who live within their areas. And I can assure you, they did a good job. Some of them even wrote a report to the Census Commissioner affirming the full coverage of the people in their areas. Thirdly, the people who were involved in data collection underwent thorough training. I talked of 4 levels of training. We had training of trainers. We had a training at national level, whereby we were training the district planners who were in charge of statistics at district level. We also trained the district IT officers, because we knew we were going to run a digital census, and therefore we needed their capacity. We trained people at the district. We trained the people at the sub-count level. And at the sub-count level, we're training now the foot soldiers, the enumerators, with the people we call the enumeration supervisors. All this was, of course, done to ensure that data collection is done effectively. When it came to data preparation, analysis, report writing, Mr. Fonopondo talked about external validators. It is definitely true that we had experts from National Planning Authority, from Makerere University, and other institutions, and even private experts, to review and go through the various chapters based on their level of expertise, to ensure that we are in line with the principles of producing official statistics, and this we achieved very well. The magnitude of error that has been talked about, you have read it, that has since been corrected, and of course it is provided for within the principles, the fundamental principle of production of official statistics as given by the UN, that if you identify an error in a published statistical information, it is within your mandate as a National Statistics Office to correct that error promptly and publish it to the public.
But the public would be interested in knowing what accounts for this error. Many people will urgently say, and we did put that question to Mr. Mukiza, the executive director, when he was a guest before the census on this show. I did put it again to him shortly after the census had begun on Face Off to ask, you had 10 years to prepare for this exercise, and you knew you're going to do this, you do this every 10 years, which many people would say is adequate time to prepare and do a seamless exercise. Number two, you had the resources you needed. So how, and you have had the time to process this, the data you collected before releasing it to the public. What accounts for those errors?
Definitely, we need to appreciate the volume of this exercise. And that's why even in our planning, we had to draw a roadmap on how we would approach the exercise and how we would be able to give out the information to the public. We talked about the preliminary, where first of all we're answering the question of how many Ugandans we are and where we are. Where do they live? That's when we're able to give the population, the overall population of the country, and also for the various districts. Then in the provision, we're giving the details of how these people are living. For example, do they live in permanent structures? Do they live in grass structures? By what percentage of the population live in such environment? How the kind of services they access, by what distance? For example, do children move to access a primary school, a secondary school, a health facility, a financial institution, a clean source of water? We're giving those kind of demographic characteristics in the provision. Well, the human error that we're talking about, I already talked of the principle that gives us an opportunity to clear that error, which we have done. But also, a detailed analysis is yet to be provided in December when we are releasing the final results.
Yes. I did ask the question. My question was, how do you account for the error, given the time you had and the resources you had at your exposure?
I say that accounting for the error, of course, is our responsibility to explain how this error happened. And we already told you that actually there was no error in the 2024 census results. The error was simply on those 4 tribes, which you have read to the audience. We have to continue saying that it was human, and we have eventually responded to it.
Okay, we'll need to take a quick commercial break. I need to remind our viewers that information we're receiving from across the border, our neighbors in Kenya, the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has been impeached by the impeached by the Senate, so basically removed. And Honorable Mwanga Chivungu was reminding us that according to the law, if you're impeached, you're in the cold for 10 years. So his threats to run in 2027, we need to be watching closely what will be happening in Kenya. But in our subsequent broadcasting, and we will be covering that in a little bit more detail. And the people following us on X especially, I see a lot of intense interest in the show and discussion that's going on. Please continue with the debate. I'll be able to pick a few things and read them out. We'll be right back.
Frontline.
Still watching the Frontline on NBS TV, and major developments from across the border in Kenya. We are receiving some details. The Senate resolved to impeach Rigathi Gachagua following a 2-day exercise that entailed volumes of evidence and hours of cross-examination. The Citizen is reporting. It says Gachagua, who is presently admitted at the current hospital, was ousted after 53 senators voted in support of the first count of gross violation of Articles 10, 27, 73, 75, and 129 of the Kenyan Constitution, only 13 senators voted against that
impeachment.
Yes, that impeachment on the first count. Yes, the motion was moved by Kibwezi Member of Parliament, Mwengi Mutuse. Rigathi Gachagua has technically been fired by the Senate as Deputy President.
No, technically. Actually, he can only now be reinstated by court.
By court?
But the process as they are in the Kenyan Constitution have now been completed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he can no longer be Deputy President?
No, he's not. Until
he's not.
He can
as a running mate, the President can't fire him. But the impeachment process gets him out
there
of
are processes, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Jane Kojo, Kano, Gulu Command Post, says in future, strategic intervention should be done by the army, like what UBOS did. For example, OWC, they know all the households in Uganda. Those resources they gave to UBOS, they would have given them to the army, and it would have sorted out these...
Which army?
Yeah?
Which army?
How many armies do you have?
No, but Kano Kojo, my brother, also knows that they have not been able to give cassava cuttings, planting materials to all the households.
They were a disaster. That's why they moved away from them.
Kojo, you know you haven't given planting materials to all the farmers, even when you know them.
Let's go back to our statistic numbers. Some people are complaining that, traditionalists will be complaining that their numbers are hidden in other regions because they can't be only 50. Traditionalists can't have only grown from 33,805 to only 56,000. That they are more, you're complaining about...
Yes. I was saying that the late Tamara Mirundi knew this thing, said, every Christian you see, every Muslim, at least the majority of them, also practice traditionalism. They do last funeral rites of their parents, of their children.
Of the deceased.
Of the deceased. And the majority of them, you'll find them with what they call yirizi here in Buganda. You'll find somebody has sewn something on the waist of their skirt or trouser. So that number may be...
So even when they're appearing in church,
yes.
They are squeezing something else?
Yes. Yes. So maybe they have been intimidated not to confess publicly. Yes. But otherwise, there are many. There are more than that number.
More than that number.
And I haven't had atheists because I'm one of them. Maybe we are 0 point, but we also...
You are only one person, so they cannot attach a figure.
But for me, I want to pick from...
No religion. The people who claim they belong to no religion are actually higher than those who say they...
No. The people who say there is no religion.
Yes.
Yeah, we.
Yes.
Yeah, we say there is no religion.
2014,
there is no God.
In 2014, you were 78,254, representing 0.2%.
Yes.
In 2024, your number has grown to 85,559. So you're many. You're growing actually.
We don't
now.
believe that there is God. No.
Can we discuss the statistics?
But I was saying that Honorable Semuju, yes, I just wanted to respond to Honorable Semuju says that even if these people have done a good job, their job is watered down by the lack of legitimacy and credibility of the government. Yes, because he says where the president modifies his names every other election, but if he modifies in accordance with the law and is permissible by the law, then I find no problem there. But the more critical thing, Honorable Semuju, who has lost confidence in his own FDC, surely has no local standard to judge the credibility of another political party
or government, not running a country.
Or another government, which the people of Uganda, the people of Uganda have voted at the presidential level.
But he has said the
59%.
presidential election was stolen. That's what he has said himself.
At parliamentary level, at 71% members of parliament, surely, Honorable Semuju, you should have some shame, not to question the credibility of a group that is still together, and for you, you have run away.
I'm discovering another category. You might actually belong more. No, the people you're describing.
Which one?
Who belong to both traditional and Christian. You both calls them unclassified. You have two categories: other religions number one, and then unclassified as number two. That number actually is growing dramatically. Those who believe in both worlds, I think.
And why the Pentecostals are increasing, they are now also a business.
From 510, 495 in 2014 to 1,517,000. Didicus, do you have a number that has grown this dramatically? Because these have grown by, they've more than doubled.
But growing from which number?
From 510
yes,
to 1.5 million.
From
you know it is self-identification. When we ask you what is your religion, and you say I'm a Muslim, we take you as a Muslim. So that's how they identify themselves.
As unclassified.
And that is, that's what we call statistical independence. What we collect from the field is what we give out. Yes.
Just before I come back to you, Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, let me come back to you quickly. On these same numbers, I've been putting the question, how does the credibility of the rest of the data set get protected in circumstances where a few errors tend to dominate?
First, let us first interrogate. You know, population census data become base data. We are now basing on statistics of 2014 as a base. Now, going forward, census data of 2024 is going to become a base of all other surveys. Therefore, the base must not be under dispute, must be above board, must be thorough, must be believable, and that's a task. Now, you boss earlier attempted to push Uganda, and they misled the president, saying we had gone into a middle-income status. He quickly retracted from that and said, no, we are just knocking. But they had supplied data to the effect that we had gone into a middle-income status. Now, your question on how can this be corrected? Actually, I'm worried. I was going to ask him. He said the other institutions helped you, boss. Did you get any help from security agencies?
Didicus, what help did you get from other institutions?
Definitely, we also worked with security, because first of all, they had to be enumerated.
No, not at that level. I mean at the level where you've put other expert bodies in data analysis, data collection, data, especially in analysis.
The information I have about external reviewers were coming from Makerere University, UNDP, National Planning Authority. Those are the ones I'm well versed with.
But for security, because the interest is, you see what we must critically watch as a country. We are near an election. Now, when you begin to dispute population census data, I hope there want to be a basis for more delays. Because under the law, the Electoral Commission is mandated, by the way, in the Constitution, shall demarcate electoral areas. Shall review electoral areas now in accordance with the population data and establish new electoral areas. Now, the last time this country has ever had demarcations of electoral areas, based, especially at constituency level, based on population, I don't know, it was after CA. Since then, all that has happened has been gerrymandering and creating constituencies based on counties. And counties in our law were for affirmative action. No, I can tell you the genesis. No, counties. You see, this one I compared with Dr. Semo Gerere. Counties were for affirmative action. At the basis, no, sir. At the basis of electoral representation, when they put a threshold Okay, they realized that there were areas that would be sparsely populated by territory. They said, now what do we do? Let every county also that does not make the threshold become a constituency. Now it was for purposes of affirmative action. Now it became a model. That's why Honorable Semuju has a parish that has more voters than my own constituency. That's why when you go to Nansana municipality of Wakaima, which has Nansana, Gombe, Naweru, Busukuma, and it's one constituency, is nearly having 0.5 million voters. Now, even when you go to women MPs on the basis of just a district, then you have Honorable Narima representing Wachiso, 3 million people.
More than 3 now.
More than 3 now. And then you have Kapirabio, yours. Which one? This one's constituency. District has how many people?
No, it's the constituency where he was born. Now has northeast, south, northeast, central, something. I think every village in his area has now become. They created one for.
Our time is running out. Our time is running out.
I need to give. Gentlemen, were in the parliament that passed
those constituencies.
Those constituencies, and therefore you are part of the gerrymandering if it was done.
Thank you. Let's give time to Dedicus to wrap this up. Dedicus, you have a message you'd like to share with our viewers and Ugandans. I'd like to give you.
Thank you, Charles. I want to go back to what Honorable Mwanga Chivumbu started with. You know, he said that how could you fail to just count people 1, 2, 3? But Honorable, you know that census covers a lot of information about the population, including their characteristics. I told you of how they are living. I told you the income capacity, the poverty levels, the health access, safe water access, sanitation, employment. So there are so many factors that the National Population and Housing Census brings on board to support government planning. Secondly, on the resources that you advocated, and Mr. Fonopondo said, even if you had not, still government would have given us the money, the 300+ billion. I think we put it into very good utilization. We procured tablets, which consumed about 120 billion shillings. Those tablets are going to continuously be used to support other government programs.
But went with them.
No. Honorable, you know those are claims. Those are wrong claims. There is nobody.
That's how members of parliament debate.
Those are wrong claims, Honorable.
No, that's why I am putting it to him, because I have seen it in the media.
So, Honorable, the fact is,
you have a whole library and research team.
Let him confirm that they have all of them.
Definitely, we had some tablets that went missing, and it was expected.
So am I lying?
Because we had some of our enumerators who were attacked. Even in one day here, they grabbed the bag and they took the tablets. We have cases with police which can only be availed when police gives us that detailed report of how many tablets were lost and reported. But of course, we have collected a very good percentage of our equipment, and in fact, some of them are going to be given to Electoral Commission, NIRA. Others we are going to be leaving them at the parish level to support, the administrative data, and so on and so forth, the issues to do with PDM and so on. So we have made good use of the resources, including recruitment of the enumerators, training them, feeding them during training, and also paying their entitlements. Thank you.
Thank you. Our time is out. We need to get out of here. Dedicus and your team, we will be inviting you back to discuss the other findings that you made, because they're critical. We haven't had opportunity to discuss them. We're getting lost in which tribe is more than the other. I wonder, the broader numbers are not disputed. How many Ugandans we are, where we live.
These Jepadora who are in Buganda and they have not taught children their language, so when children ask, they say we are Baganda. But the name is on Anofono. Now our number has been compressed. So we need the...
But your children don't know even Japadora.
This is what I'm saying.
They know Uganda and English.
This is what I'm saying.
So how,
the names are Okoze, Ofono, Osinde.
Yeah, but by
they're in Kayunga,
ways of life, they are Baganda.
You know, they are everywhere.
By way of life for Fono's children, are Baganda. They don't even eat kalo.
This is what I'm complaining about.
Now they consume matoke.
Even when they eat it, they don't eat it the same way these guys eat it.
I'm saying the Tengadora group, we are now going to put them into spotlight to say, you people, where our number is not going up as rapidly as we expect.
Put more men on the job.
Because if I have 7 children, sure, I expect the number of the Jepadora to go up.
Yeah, they have gone up by 7 children.
Our time is out. We need to get out of here. Like I said, you boss will invite you back to have a discussion about the other information that hasn't been debated yet before you release your final results. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much, the Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi. Thank you very much, Ofono Pondo. Thank you very much, Didakas Okoth. Didakas Okoth. And thank you very much, the Honorable Ibrahim Semujunganda. Thank you very much to all our viewers for joining us this evening and always. And thank you very much to the production crew that delivers this show to you. From me, till next Thursday.